Did you know that hidden toxins in your home can not only affect your health, but your pet's health too? Most of you who watch my channel know that I'm a licensed mental health counselor and a holistic health coach. But did you also know that I own a pet sitting business and have been an animal welfare advocate for the past 10 years? Being inside people's homes and caring for their pets, and my work with toxin elimination strategies has made me realize just how important it is to educate the public about hidden toxins in our homes. From simple swaps to serious solutions, we cover it all. Well, welcome to today's special episode where I had the privilege of being a guest speaker on the Holistic Cat Specialist podcast. Last year, I hired Paola ZANIBELLI DAVIES, a feline holistic care and behavior specialist, straight from my Italian homeland, to help me with my cat Athena after my family had a mold exposure in our home a few years ago, which not only affected our health, but also Athena's. Please stay tuned until after the interview, where I will share more information about Paola and how you can hire her to help you with your feline friend, no matter where in the world you are. But for now, check out our interview between two Italian women, due donne italiane, who both share a passion for holistic health and felines, and learn more about how you can protect yourself, your family members, and your fur babies. Andiamo!
Hi, everyone. So today we are here together to have a chat with Leah Petrucci and everything that she does in her business. And she has quite a few things that she wants to share with us. And so we're going to talk about these things with Leah. Leah is a trauma-informed holistic practitioner with a focus on healing the mind, body, and spirit and relationships. And she operates two virtual counseling and coaching practices where she helps health conscious adults make lifestyle changes through holistic self-care. Leah facilitates a group coaching program for women who are seeking to transform their health through toxin elimination strategies. And she also operates a local pet sitting business where she incorporates her work as a holistic health coach to her human and furry clients by teaching toxin elimination strategies. So welcome, Leah, and I am so excited to have you here today.
I'm excited to be here, Paola. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. I mean, you are a wealth of information when it comes to toxins and how to clean the environment without the overload of chemicals that we are usually subjected to by using the conventional products that are available on the market. So I am really all ears about what you can share with us today. And first of all, I would like to know, how did you get into the work that you do as a therapist and a coach and also a pet sitter? Because this is all that you do. And it looks like you have several passions here. So if you want to give us a bit of context.
Yes, I definitely wear a lot of hats, but all three things actually overlap. And just to give some background on how I came to do all of these things, my first plan was to become a therapist. Going back into childhood, just giving a brief idea of why. You know, people typically want to become a therapist because they went through some trauma and they want to understand how that trauma affected them and how to heal that trauma and how they can help others. And of course, that's absolutely what happened to me. And then my world coincided with health coaching because of my history with chronic health issues that started at a very early age. At the age of 15, I was diagnosed with lymphatic cancer and had to go through heavy duty chemotherapy and go through just some really traumatic things as a teenager. And, you know, talk about toxins. I mean, the ultimate toxin treatment was chemotherapy. I mean, it ultimately saved my life, but it definitely had a lot of side effects. And going through that as a family was very hard on us. And not even a year after I was declared in remission from that cancer, my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. So we had to go through all over again, you know, with her cancer. So we got hit back to back with two cancers in our family. And it actually didn't stop there. Many years later, my father was diagnosed with the same lymphatic cancer that I had as a teenager. He was diagnosed in his 80s. But I'm pleased to report we are all in remission, thank God, from this cancer. So, you know, we all are survivors, but it really started my journey towards health and wellness. And on my journey to become a therapist, I started realizing that my clients and their mental health issues, it wasn't just mental health. It was also physical. They were having physical symptoms. And I started to realize like that these two things are not separate. The mind and the body are not separate. They are one. And my journey, that started in my teens with cancer really was just the beginning. It wasn't the end all. Okay, I went through cancer and we're all good. No. It started a cascade of other chronic health symptoms. I started having migraines in my 20s. I started having joint pain and muscle pain where it was just painful, even in the morning, to just close my hands and get started and pick up things with my hands and make it through the work day. And I had many leave of absences I had to take from these chronic daily migraines I was having and this joint pain. Then I started having severe digestive and gut issues. And so I went down, the rabbit hole of trying to find the right practitioners to bring answers. And I really got frustrated with our traditional Western healthcare system. It just wasn't providing me the answers that I needed, other than here, take this pill, take these pain medications that you're just pretty much going to have to take for the rest of your life and that cause these side effects. And then here's another pill to help with this side effect. And it was just a hamster wheel of medications. And I no longer became satisfied with that answer. So I decided to seek other solutions. And I looked into holistic health and functional medicine, which is getting to the root cause of why am I having these issues? Like, how can I change my lifestyle? I finally became ready to do whatever it took to change my lifestyle and, get rid of the root causes. And going down that pathway, I've come across some amazing holistic practitioners and many different areas of specialization. I have learned a ton of things. I have invested time and money and energy into taking master classes and virtual seminars and workshops and studying under these different practitioners. And I realized from this journey, this became my passion of using my personal experiences with my health journey and helping other people. And I also started to realize as I was pet sitting on the side to make ends meet, just to make some extra cash. Really, that's how it started. Actually, it started as when I was a dog trainer at PetSmart. I worked as a dog trainer to just make some extra money while I was going through grad school to become a therapist. And I thought, well, this is just a side, gig. It's just a side way to make some extra money. But I realized I really enjoyed, working with animals. I love animals. I've had cats all my life, and I realized I was good with dogs, and I was good at training them and working with them. The problem was my migraines were were just really interfering with my ability to continue working as a dog trainer because it just required so much energy and focus. And so I had to step down from my position as a dog trainer. But I thought, well, I can still, do low key pet sitting. And so I started just working for people, through word of mouth, and it just grew from there until I thought, well, once I had started my own therapy practice and became a business owner, I thought, well, this is probably smart to open up an LLC and make it an official business and grow that business on the side as well. And as my health journey started to progress and I started to learn more about toxin elimination strategies to heal myself, I started realizing as I was inside people's homes, pet sitting for them and just looking around and being in people's homes, I started to see all these common denominators that people weren't aware that the cleaning products they had under their sink were toxic and could have been causing some of the inflammatory issues that they were reporting to me that their pet, both they themselves, the humans, and their pets were having. We're talking like gut issues or, issues like what's going on with my kitty with the fur, over grooming and the fur falling off the body. And, even things like cancer and autoimmune issues and all kinds of things, allergies. And I just started to see all of these common denominators being in people's homes. As I also learned about other things like mold, and that's another rabbit hole where my health took a turn. And I realized through working with different practitioners who were mold informed, that living in Florida, as I live in Florida, we are highly susceptible to mold, especially after hurricanes. And we really got hit brutally with hurricanes this past year. And so after dealing with multiple mold exposures, both myself and my family members and our kitty, and Athena that you were helping me with, I realized that mold was playing a big role in my health and was a huge root cause of my health issues. And once I started to address the mold and clean up the mold and detox it from my body and from our home environment, my health started to take a turn. And I started to also realize that people didn't have this knowledge that they could also be dealing with a mold problem in their air conditioning unit, for example, or after a hurricane with a leak that didn't get fixed or whatever it is. But also I was learning about other things like cleaning products and how that can affect people's health, how electromagnetic fields like our technology devices and our Wi-Fi routers and our cell phones and all of these things that we rely on day in, day out could also be causing these symptoms in people's health and their pets' health. So come full circle, all three of the things that I do as a licensed therapist, a holistic health coach, and a pet sitter collided. And bam, that's where I am today, trying to help people, realize that they can make these little changes over time and transform their home to become this safe sanctuary for both them and their pets. And so that's where my passion lies, is educating people about what are the hidden threats in their homes, in their bodies, and how can they slowly start to make swaps to safer alternatives and to transform their health. And so that's my hope.
Yes, this is all very interesting, and it sounds like you have dealt with quite a lot of health challenges in your life, in your personal life, in your family life, and also because of where you live, also in the environment where you live. And this has eventually brought you to sort of, there is the light at the end of the tunnel, so at the virtual tunnel, where you have, because of these hurdles and these issues that you have been facing, you have also looked for solutions, and you have found a way to cope with these things and to improve your environment so that you could feel better and then help others do the same. And I am, forgive, my cat is just meandering around the place, but we just ignore him. I mean, he can never be ignored, but So yes, and I'm wondering, on the back of what you just said, what are the things that, well, first of all, I'd like to know how you got into your areas of specialization and what particularly are your areas of specialization, and also what you see most commonly in your, as you do your job as a pet sitter and you visit so many homes around you, what are the most common things that you see in these households that you cringe about and you really want people not to use? Those are those would be my two questions for now. Yeah.
So my area of specialization in my therapy practice is helping people with trauma, mainly trauma, but also helping people reduce their toxic exposure, because trauma, of course, can be very toxic to the body, to the mind, but also those physical toxins, things in our food, in our water, in the air we breathe, in our personal care products, our beauty products, our cleaning products. And I've had a whole journey with that as well. And then, as I mentioned before, our EMFs, our electromagnetic fields, our technology devices. And I'm definitely not saying we shouldn't use technology, because that's just not feasible in this day and age. But there are ways that we can reduce our exposure. And I have experimented with that in my own health and have found, just great results, with even things like sleeping better and improving my mood and reducing my headaches and my joint pain and my gut issues and all the things. So I see when I go and pet sit for someone that they're just not aware of these things. And I wasn't either. I didn't know anything about mold. I didn't know that the cleaning products that we were using were probably causing symptoms. When I lived with family, my mom had asthma and she was just having these daily sneezing and coughing attacks. And there was just something that intuitively told me there's more to this. It's not just because she has asthma and that's just the card she was dealt. There's something we're missing. And that's become a passion for me as well when I work with someone, whether it's in my therapy practice or my coaching practice or as a pet sitter, if they're open to it. And some people aren't open to it, and that's okay. I'm not pushy. I always say I'm not toxin police. I'm not food police. I'm not EMF police. I'm there to deliver information to people who want to know and want to make changes and are ready to feel better and ready to live their best life. Like, that's who I'm talking to, and usually those people, I know who those people are because they start asking questions and they're like, oh, really? I didn't know this, And so I might start with something like, well, did you know that I just noticed that the cleaning products under your sink, because I have to clean up after myself after I leave, a pet sitting job. And I always, when you said, what are some of the things that make you cringe? One of the things that makes me cringe is when I open up the cabinet and I see my choices for things that I have to clean with, like Clorox wipes that have ammonia, or the Swiffer that has toxic fragrances, or the Mr. Clean that, oh my gosh, don't even get me started. What's in that? Or what's the other one? Lysol, the things that even dish soap, that we just don't know. But when you turn over the back and look at the label, someone like me who has trained myself on how to read labels, I look at the label and go, oh my God, like, this is, I can't use this. So I started bringing my own stuff, which, we can definitely talk about what are better alternatives. But I start bringing my own multi-purpose cleaner that works just as well, probably if not better, is gentle yet effective. And so I can have that peace of mind that I'm not exposing myself or the animals to these toxic fragrances and these toxic chemicals. So that's one thing that I like to try to educate people on. And then the other one is the EMFs in their homes that they may not realize is causing inflammation to both them and their pets. I'll give an example. I had a client that I sat for, and I still do. And the kitty's, the room where the kitty was kept while I was sitting for her, I noticed, and the owner had told me, that the cat was having some gut issues and some inflammatory issues. And I started to notice how many things in the room were causing high EMF exposures. There were two cordless phones in the room, high EMFs. There was an Alexa device in the room. There was a treadmill, that was plugged in. There was a Wi-Fi booster plugged in. I mean, lots of things. And of course, the owners had no idea. Of course, they didn't know. It wasn't their fault, and I just tried to gently explain, did you know that some of these things might be causing? I mean, it's really hard for us to know unless you do some environmental mitigation strategies. And then I gave them some tips on things that they could do. But basically, one of the main things I said was try to reduce this if you can. Unplug things when they're not needed, or we can talk about other ways to protect yourself. And they were open to it, and they listened to my feedback, and because that's really the only way to know is to do some reduction, what's called environmental mitigation strategies, and then see, do you maybe sleep better because you've unplugged that phone that's right next to your head at night? Do you maybe sleep better because you turned off the Wi-Fi router at night and it's not blasting you with these high frequencies that aren't compatible to our natural body frequencies? So
they're very potent as well. They're very powerful. So
they're so powerful that we get our neighbors' signals, So and then people have boosters to try to even boost that signal even farther. So these things affect our health, but we don't talk about them as much as we should, especially in Western medicine. We just don't talk about these things. But this is where the healing is at, in my experience.
And we need to be very careful what we leave around, because certain products which contain toxic compounds like ammonia, bleach, etc., they can be really attractive for cats. And some cats are really attracted by the smell of ammonia. And it might remind them of urine or something similar, and it tends to arouse certain cats. And we need to be really careful what we leave around, because we really don't want our cats to roll in ammonia or in solutions that are cleaning solutions, because then they end up leaking themselves, and then they absorb them straight directly into their mouth and into their system. So obviously these things are a concern. And I have also been on a journey myself, learning all these things about toxins and how we need to really strip the environment from things that are toxic in the first place to avoid this toxic load to become unbearable and really harmful to us and to our cats. Especially cats are such small creatures, and they live really close to the ground, and they tend to lick themselves much more than we do. Hopefully we don't lick ourselves, but cats do, and this way they get to absorb all these things. We do absorb things directly as well when we, for example, cook in takeaway dishes, and for example, we use them in the microwave, and we don't realize how many microplastics are absorbed by the food when we do that. So there are things that we can do to avoid these things. If you really, really have to have a takeaway, before you reheat it, put it in a different container, in a ceramic plate or in a glass container, and then you can then reheat it, or in a pan. And yes, there are things that we can do, definitely, and things as long as we're aware of these things. And another thing that I have learned in my journey was things like incense and fragrances and candles. I like the effect of candles in terms of the light effect and how the place looks when you light a candle. But when I got to know all the stuff that they put in candles and the artificial fragrances, because I have informed myself on what fragrances are good for cats and what fragrances are not, and how you can use pure essential oils in a clever way, and especially they have to be diluted in a certain way. You can't use essential oils as they are, and especially if they are not pure, they contain these artificial fragrances and so on. So doing this research and informing myself, I really realized how bad these candles, these normal commercial candles are, and all the stuff that gets put in them is not just the wick, which is full of heavy metals, but is also really the fragrances. These are phthalates, and they reach our lungs through the nose, through inhalation, and then they mix in that barrier that is very, very subtle, where they mix directly into our bloodstream, and then they travel through our body, they reach our brain. They have found phthalates and microplastics everywhere, including the brain. And so for our cats, this is also a concern. We want to maybe use better plates, cleaner sources of food, and limit all these cleaning products. Now, in the membership that I lead, which is the Holistic Cat Club, I do have a resource in there with 15 recipes, and they're all natural recipes. All you need is it's a handful of really harmless natural ingredients, and you can mix them together in different ways following the recipes, because we don't want to mix things that form gases and create things that explode or things like that. So we want to be sure what we mix and what amount. But these are all things that are natural, and there are so many recipes in there to help people to make their own products, really. And these are things like white vinegar and sodium bicarbonate, and there are a few more. First of all, these things are cheap, and second, I was a bit skeptic at the beginning. I thought it was messy to do these products. They wouldn't clean as much as the commercial products, and I wasn't probably going to be able to use them properly. But then actually I tried, and they smell wonderful. They feel clean and safe, and they clean amazing. So I was sold. The first time I tried them, I was absolutely sold, and I said, that's it. I am getting rid of whatever is not this sort of stuff that is natural. And now, from now on, we are using only natural things, because also things that you say wash with, you think you wash something, it comes out of the washing machine smelling fresh, because they put artificial fragrances, obviously, in these cleaning conditioners and cleaning products for laundry liquids, etc. And you feel that it smells clean and fresh. Really, that's artificial fragrances. But this stuff stays for weeks on these things. And if you're washing your pet, say your pet bed, or like your cat bed or your cat blanket, yes, and then they go and lie on them, they actually they absorb it, and they through the skin, and then they lick it, and the cycle continues. So even things that you think you've washed with and they are now dry, they actually still contain the chemicals. So this is really tricky. So you were saying, how did you get to your areas of expertise before, and you were telling me your interesting story. And so what are your areas of expertise exactly?
Yeah, so the therapy that I do is very trauma-based, but it is now morphed into toxin elimination strategies for health, for the body. because it also takes away inflammation of the brain, which is called neuroinflammation. So people who come to me reporting things like anxiety, depression, or mood disorder like bipolar disorder, or even PTSD, ADD, OCD, all these things, I start talking to them about toxin elimination strategies, because I have seen when people do make changes, the inflammation in the brain, starts to heal itself, and then they start having less of their symptoms, So when I decided to start a secondary health coaching practice, and mainly the reason I did that was so I could serve people outside of the state of Florida. I'm licensed to provide therapy right now only in the state of Florida. Hopefully that will change soon. There's a bill in place that hopefully will allow my license to expand to other states, but I'm waiting on that, and I didn't really want to wait too long, so I opened up a second practice where I could help people anywhere, wherever they live. UK, for example, and they want to have a virtual session where I can, coach them on these different toxin elimination strategies. So I've created a protocol. I call it the safety protocol. It's an acronym, SAFE-T, and each thing stands for, a certain thing. So the F stands for sleep hygiene. So I talk to them about how can they improve their sleep, and it's more than just, meditate at night and go to bed, establish a routine. Like, yes, it's all those things, but I come at it from an EMF mitigation approach. How can we reduce your EMFs? How can we reduce your toxin exposure in your home so you're sleeping better? The A is for air quality. So I talk to them about their air quality. Do they maybe have mold in their air conditioning or other VOCs, volatile organic compounds, that is, depleting them of oxygen to the brain, and therefore they're not breathing as pure of air as they could be. So that's the A. The F is for food and water. I talk to them about how can they clean up their food and water, which is, a whole thing in itself. In this day and age, our food has just morphed into this atrocity. Whenever I go to the grocery store, I just get triggered all the time when I go down certain aisles. I'm like, oh my gosh, like what is going on in this country? So I help people just make better decisions about their food and water. And then the E is for emotions. We talk about healthy emotions and how can we, because the mind and the body are one, how can we regulate your emotions to work for you and to process them in healthy ways and not run from them and not try to stuff them in unhealthy ways. So we tackle emotions head on. And then the T is for actually two things. It's for trauma and toxins. So I really wish a lot of times can really go hand in hand. So it's really an overall holistic approach, the mind, the body, the spirit, and even relationships. When we reduce our toxin exposure, our relationships can be improved, especially when we stop acting out in old toxic patterns, toxic behavior patterns emotionally. But even when we reduce the toxins, the physical toxins that we're exposed to, it can heal the inflammation of the brain, and then we can just be happier, healthier people, and our relationships will also improve. So it's really a holistic approach.
It sounds like something that looks at all the elements around trauma and around issues so that you can tackle them properly. It's something that I am very interested in. Unfortunately, my mom passed from cancer, and when she was diagnosed, I was about 30, and it was about 19 years ago. And unfortunately, when she was diagnosed, and the cancer that she was diagnosed with, which unfortunately was pancreatic cancer, it is one of the worst. And really, when I looked at the patterns in the house that I chose to live and where my mom lived, I was wondering, and I was asking myself how much trauma and how much those patterns had influenced what happened to her physically, because how toxic is trauma? You can tell me.
Yes, I agree. I think that's trauma played a huge role in my mom's diagnosis of her breast cancer, because it was right after I went through my cancer and how much trauma we went through as a family. So I absolutely believe that played a huge role.
Yes. And something else that I would like to ask you would be, what are some tips that you can give our audience today, for example, to protect themselves and their pets, their cats in particular, from toxins that are very commonly found in their house, in their environment, and in general outside? because unfortunately we do live in a toxic world, and we can't change some of the things that are around us, but I'm sure we can do some things to at least protect us a little bit.
Yeah, there's always something we can do. And I have come across people that kind of say, oh, well, that's the world we live in, and there's nothing you can do. That's nothing to be farther from the truth. There are things you can do. And that might just be where that particular person is at. They might not be willing to make the changes, and that's okay. That's their choice. The people that are my people are the ones who are like, yes, I want to make these changes, even if it's just like 1% at a time. And that's where I can come in and like, provide these strategies. The number one thing I would say, as far as like what I see in pet sitting homes is of course the cleaning products. If I had it my way, I would dump all of those cleaning products. Sorry, I lost for a second. If I had it my way, I would take all the cleaning products that I see under the sink and just dump them in the trash. Just dump them. But people need to ease into making changes when they're ready. Because it's really an easy swap, as you mentioned before. Getting natural cleaning products is, it's really not as hard as it may sound, and it's inexpensive. They work. I've tried many of your DIY cleaning recipes. I have one of them already made up under the sink, ready to go in a glass jar, and I use that one, as well as another product that I found from one of my health practitioners, and I have it right here to show you. So this is a product called Briotech, which is the company is called Briotech, but the actual ingredient, the active ingredient in this is called hypochlorous acid, or HOCl. It's not the same as hyaluronic acid. It's not the same as hydrochloric acid. It's hypochlorous acid. And that's basically it. It's hypochlorous acid plus salt water. That's what you get in this thing. And as you can see, I buy it by the gallon. Because I literally use this for everything. It's multi-purpose. It also comes in a smaller spray bottle, so you can just literally use this wherever. You can use it on your mirrors, your stove, your countertops, your toilet, your bathrooms, for everything. I actually also use this in my diffuser over here, my essential oil diffuser you see over here. Briotech is the base that I use, and then I add, some drops of a high quality essential oil, and I basically fog my apartment. It kills, this solution kills mold, kills bacteria, kills viruses. It even kills SARS and the COVID virus and all kinds of other things, pneumonia virus, fungi, like I said, mold, so many things. And it's a much safer, gentler alternative. It doesn't smell harsh. I can barely even smell it, but yet it is so effective. It's so effective. Doctors' offices use it, daycares use it, hospitals use it to disinfect, and it's rather inexpensive. And you can get it on Amazon. You can get it at Walmart. It's really easy to get, and that's when people are going to make changes. Is when it's that low hanging fruit. When it's easy to do, they're going to be willing to make that first step to make that change. And yes, that would be my number one tip.
Yes.
Talk out what all your cleaning products that you have, and switch with either, the Briotech, which I can provide a link that we can, put under in the description of the video, where they can make it really easy, and all I have to do is click on it and then they can buy the product. Like it couldn't be easier. And then of course I recommend your DIY products as well. Like both of those would be like the number one thing I could say to people that would really start to make improvements in many different areas, and their laundry detergent as well, swapping out their laundry detergent, because that gets on the skin and causes all kinds of skin issues. And especially if you're washing your pets, like you said, their beds, their toys, their blankets, and then they're getting all of these toxic phthalates and fragrances in through their skin. And that could be like something that is so easy of a swap to make that can just cause so many great benefits. So that would be like the number one tip. The number two tip that I would tell people is to start addressing their electromagnetic fields in their home. And that can be a tall order. And that's where I can come in, as a health coach and guide people on how they can make changes, one step at a time. But one huge thing that I tell people to do is start turning off your Wi-Fi router at night. You really don't need it unless you are in a situation like with my parents. Their Wi-Fi is attached to their alarm system. So, which really stinks that it's like that. But that's the way most things are nowadays. They're attached to technology and a Wi-Fi signal or a Bluetooth signal. And Wi-Fi and Bluetooth just emit these massive frequencies of electromagnetic pollution that zap our energy. And, even things like brain fog, people don't make the connections, or headaches or vertigo or ringing in the ears, or even just anxiety could be due to those high EMFs that we're exposed to every day. But there are strategies that you can do to reduce that exposure. I practice them every day. I'm hardwired right now into the internet, so I'm not using Wi-Fi. In fact, I hardly ever use my Wi-Fi router anymore. So, and it has made a significant improvement on my health. So these are things that I could say and suggest to try turning off your Wi-Fi router at night. Either get in the habit of doing it, or setting an alarm, or getting a timer, getting a cheap timer on Amazon and just setting it on a timer to where it turns off your Wi-Fi router at night, and unplug as many things as you can that are next to your bed.
Mm-hmm.
Don't have your cell phone plugged in next to your head all night long. I used to do that. Don't fall asleep watching your phone in your face all night long. Things like that I used to be very guilty of because I didn't know, but knowledge is power, right?
Knowledge is power. Yes. Yes. And we don't realize how pervasive is technology and electricity and waves, because we don't see them. We don't smell them. We don't see them. We don't hear them until we switch them off, or we have a power outage, and all of a sudden the house really feels silent. You don't realize the humming that is constant in the background of all this electrical equipment running. And yes, and the more you can switch it off at night and in hours where you're not using them, obviously the less exposure you get. And I wonder if do you use one of those things that you can put on your phone to protect from waves? And yes. Yes.
Thing is called a safe sleeve, which I've heard some mixed things about, but because my healthcare practitioner, whom I trust, recommends the safe sleeve, I do use it. So this is one thing. There are so many things on the market nowadays that claim to be EMF protection devices. And that's the thing. And this is what my healthcare practitioner told me is, yes, those things, these things can be helpful. You kind of just have to either gamble and try it and see if you notice anything, because a lot of times these things can't be tested with EMF equipment. I do have my different meters that I use, my different EMF, my Ghostbusters equipment, as I call it, all these different meters that I have to test, things like Wi-Fi or dirty electricity, or even body voltage, the voltage that our bodies, give off. So I have all these different meters that help me to determine, but oftentimes these devices that are out there that are called harmonizing devices, we can't test those just to see if they are working, or at least I don't know that there is a way that is claiming that you can test, but there are certain things that you can test for. So it's really, it's just a matter of sometimes just trial and error, trying things and seeing, does it make a difference? Are you willing to spend the hundreds of, sometimes even thousands of dollars that some of these EMF harmonizing devices cost, which I actually did last Christmas. Every year for Christmas, I buy my family a new health and wellness gadget or product or thing. 1 year was castor oil for everyone. The next year was EMF protection for everyone. And last year I bought for my family's house an EMF harmonizing device called the Soma Vedic, because I had heard great results from someone that I felt was a reliable source. And I heard great stories from her and how it benefited her and her family. So I decided to, go based off of her recommendation and try. And I ended up buying one, which was quite expensive. It was not cheap. In fact, I think I just paid it off after a year of making, payments on it. So this is things like these types of harmonizing devices aren't easy, inexpensive solutions. So, and because there's not a lot of evidence to back up if they work, you have to be willing to do that. And so the strategies that are cheaper and easier and have more guarantee to work are what's called EMF mitigation strategies. So unplugging things when you don't need them, turning off your phone when you're not using it, putting it on airplane mode when you're not using it, turning off Bluetooth signal when you're not using it, hardwiring your internet as much as you can, turning off your Wi-Fi router at night so you can get a good night's sleep and let your body heal. These different mitigation strategies should be first and foremost, rather than buy this device and just go about life as usual.
Yes.
And this device will fix it all. No.
Yes, of course. There are some devices that are actually interesting. There are some that check the quality of the air in terms of toxins that are present. And I remember us talking about this in the membership one day when you wanted to see how can I actually test and how can I actually check how the quality of the air is different from one place to the other, and how could I use this in my, for example, pep sitting practice, and to have my client understand what they have in the house that they can't see or they cannot smell, but actually is there. And these devices definitely help. And then there are things that we can do, of course, all the things that you have suggested. And like we can definitely get a little bit of information and get wiser about what we use. I'm really strong in advising people not to use these artificial scents and artificial products, because so many people are experiencing issues with their cat's health in one way or another that can be connected also to these things. So, I mean, we know that there is this issue with hyperthyroidism in cats, and it is mainstream, and it is very spread and very common, but it wasn't so common before the 70s, where the carpets didn't have those fire retardant compounds in them. And then once these got introduced, all the cats were coming down with hyperthyroidism. So obviously we can't make a direct connection and pinpoint to only this, because there are so many things in the environment nowadays that are toxic, but we can see how certain choices that we have made for our products and environment have actually had a direct response and direct consequence in our cat's health. So obviously, yes, these are all things that people need to be aware of. And so I would say that this has been a fantastic way to start thinking about these things and to raise awareness about this, the toxic load that is present, unfortunately, around us, and also the things that we can do to avoid being exposed to so much every day. And if people want to know more and they want to work with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, a couple of ways you can find me. You can go to my website, which is leahpetrucci.com. And that's this. We can put a link, because I know the spelling of my last name is not an easy one. Of course, you can see it on the screen there. So that's the first way, and you can schedule a free 30-minute consultation. And we can talk further about all the different ways that I might be able to, support someone in their healing journey. So that's one way. I also have a YouTube channel called Holistic Healing Network, and I try to add new content every month about this topic of health and wellness and toxin elimination strategies. I have a couple of videos on my toxin elimination playlist, about what we've talked about, the cleaning products, beauty products, toxic tap water. And then I have, on the roster for this year to do a mold video, to do a video about EMFs and heavy metals and other things. So that would be, I also have an Instagram page at Leah Petrucci. So there's several ways that somebody can, you can also get on my email list, and you can go on my website, and there's a way to grab one of my freebies and get on my email list. And actually, I'm getting ready to launch a new free resource called 10 Powerful Ways to Eliminate Hidden Toxins and Restore Your Health. And it's 10 ways and some of the things we've already talked about, but 10 ways that you can start making little changes in your self-care routine to eliminate hidden toxins in your home and in your body. And that would be a great place to start as well.
Yes, and I'd be happy to, whenever this resource is ready and available, which is probably soon. Yeah, there you go. So it's very soon.
We will almost ready to launch it. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. So as soon as this is ready, we can add it in the description of this video, so that people that are interested, they can click on it and have a look, and hear from you and see the things that you talk about and learn a bit more about these issues and how they can stay away from toxins as much as possible. So I haven't used your product. This video was not sponsored by your product, but it is something that I appreciate you using with success. And as you said, the more we make things easy and affordable, and the more people are happy to use them, and they are encouraged to use something different. Of course, if it's something like you said, if it includes a device that is very expensive and difficult to get, and people have to change a lot of habits around it, it's very difficult for people to implement all the changes. But when we see that there are certain little steps that people can follow to help themselves and their animals and their cats in particular, then if it's simple enough, people will start getting on this journey easier, rather than it's much easier to actually start. And you can always make it better as you go along, and start with what you can right now, and then change what you can as you go along. And yes, but it was lovely to have you today, and thank you for coming here to talk about this with us. And yes, I wish you all the very best with your practices. It sounds like they're very needed right now, and we will talk again soon.
Indeed. Thank you so much for having me.
Grazie for watching our podcast interview. I hope you had some good takeaways from this episode on how you can protect yourself and your loved ones from hidden toxins in your home. For those of you who have feline family members in need of holistic care or behavior management, Paola holds a degree in psychology and over 10 plus years of experience in holistic care, herbalism for animals, and advanced feline behavior management. Paola helps proactive cat parents take control of their cat's health and behavior using natural remedies and hands-on holistic care. I will include Paola's information about her work in the description of the video. Grazie mille. Ci vediamo la prossima volta.